I've tried a couple times to record this video, and it's very difficult because there's no good way to handle this situation. I really don't know what to say and how to open the video and how to go about talking about what I think in my head but can't get out in words. So of course I'm talking about the situation that happened with XXXTentacion, and the reason I didn't put that in the title or in the video at all is because I don't want to make it seem like I'm trying to gain anything off of this tragedy. The video inspired me to want to talk about a few issues that I see with, number one, our humanity, and number two, with the internet in general. I wanted to make sure that you guys understand I have the purest motives here. I'm just using this as a format to talk on. I don't want it to be some form of, clout chasing or whatever you want to call it. Now, I'm sure many of you guys know who XXXTentacion is. Some of you might not. Some of you may not be familiar with him. But he was an artist and a rapper who was very prominent in the past couple years. He was 20 years old, he was shot and killed in Miami, and there's some speculations on why he was killed and who did it and this and that. But at the end of the day, he was killed, and that loss of life is something that can't be taken back. Someone who died at the age of 20. Someone who was never able to experience the joys of life. There were so many things that they had yet to do that they will never be able to because it was taken from them. And he was taken from his family. As soon as I saw the report from TMZ that XXXTentacion had been shot, I made the mistake of scrolling down into the comments of the Twitter feed, and there were so many people who were saying that he deserved to die or that he had it coming. And it truly hurts my heart, which is not something I say often, to see that so many people have forgotten what our humanity is. I believe that no matter what the wrongdoings that each person does, that they still have a form of good in their heart, whether it's buried or not, whether it is hidden behind their evil deeds or not. They still have good in them. And someone like X, it wasn't buried as deep as some people might think. And so many people are turning around saying that he deserved it, that he had it coming. And whether you agree with his music styles or not, whether you agree with what he said in his music or not, there is no excuse for criticizing a person to the point where you were saying that he deserved to die, that he had it coming, or that you wanted it to happen. That is completely inhumane. And I can't believe how many people are actually commenting that and truly mean it. I think part of this is because of the internet. We've gotten so used to interacting with other people on the internet and not seeing them as real people, but instead of just seeing them as objects or bots in a way. It sounds weird to say that, but every single time that I interact with someone, it's hard for me to remember that there's an actual person on the other side of that keyboard, and no matter what you say, it's still going to affect them. Someone like XXXTentacion, with how wild and crazy his personality was, it's almost hard to believe that he was a human, but he was. People are so conditioned to think that it's just an object. Someone on the internet isn't really a human. It's just something that you interact with. It's almost like they believe that other people are animals, and yet they are going to turn around and say that XXXTentacion was deserving of his death or of his fate. But if you put them on the scene, watching him bleed out, watching him sit in his car, his lifeless body with no pulse, no one would be saying that. No one would sit there and say that he deserved to die. But we are so conditioned to seeing other people on the internet as objects, as things, and not as people, that we completely forget our humanity. It's something that needs to be stopped. We've talked about this for years, about how people treat each other in Twitter comments, in YouTube comments, in Reddit feeds. People just forget that others are humans. And I think that we should get back to remembering that every single person on the other side of the keyboard, no matter how dumb you think they are, how wrong you think they are still humans. And I feel like we should interact with each other the way that we would in real life, which is something I see so little of these days, where there's no common courtesy. Even if someone responds very hatefully to something I post, I always try to comment in a response like I would if they were in real life. And I would encourage everyone to do that. And not just in the sense of quote unquote cyberbullying. I'm talking about in reacting to people's deaths and tragedies like this. It's a human person has died. And not saying that X's death is any more important than the people in the streets of Chicago who are killed every single week. But this stands as an excellent example and a speaking point to see how people think of others, especially over the internet. With X's death, it really became clear how many people were kind of jaded to the idea of death in general. But these are still human beings. Imagine if that was your brother, your cousin, your friend, anything. And if you actually see that person as a human rather than just seeing them as this person that's larger than life and that you will never see in person, it becomes a completely different situation. It just really hurts me to see how many people are reacting to death with joy away. Death should never be celebrated, no matter what happens, and no matter who it is, because there is potential in every life to do good, to become good, and to do better things with their life, and to create a better atmosphere for everyone around them. Despite X's past and his criminal offenses and anything that you want to pull up to say that he was a bad person, he still had the potential to do good, and that is evidenced by the fact that he was in Miami to do a charity program. The last post he ever made on social media was talking about a charity program he was doing that night before he was shot. In all honesty, I never really was a huge fan of XXXTentacion. I listened to some of his music. There were good songs here and there, but more so it just hurts me to see how people are reacting to his death. I personally did not have that big of a connection with him. I had not really paid attention to his Instagram videos, to all his personality. I hadn't paid attention to much of that, but it still hurts me to see that a human life was taken and people are turning around to celebrate. And I think that's a very sad day for humanity in general, and I hope that changes soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know this is more of a heavy-hearted subject than normal. I don't really like talking about these kind of things, but I felt it was very important, so I hope you guys understand. Prayers go out to X, his friends, and his family, and anyone he was survived by. Thank you guys for watching. My name is Velocity. I'm out.